let's understand about the displacement reaction. Now you must be wondering as to what is a displacement reaction. In the previous video, we saw that there was a salt, okay, which was formed when magnesium and sulfuric acid reacted with each other. A salt, magnesium sulfate, was formed and hydrogen was also formed. Okay. Now what can happen is that, let's say you have this salt. Now you mix another metal in this. Okay. Let's say you use potassium plus magnesium sulfate. In such cases, what happens is that the potassium will react with magnesium sulfate and it will displace the already existing metal. So magnesium was the metal which reacted with sulfuric acid to form magnesium sulfate. Now if suppose you add another metal to this salt which is formed, what will happen is that potassium will displace magnesium sulfate, okay, and this will kind of give you potassium sulfate. Okay, so this process in which a particular metal, let's call it as metal 1, reacts with a salt, which is this, and displaces already existing metal, is known as the displacement reaction. Okay. Now whether or not this metal will displace or not, how do we know that? I mean, it's not necessary. Just like you have that a big guy is likely to push the smaller guy in most of the circumstances. So amongst these two metals, which is, let's say, M1 and M2, how do we know whether this will be able to displace this or not? For that, there is an activity series of metal. So what this activity series does is, it has a lot of metals mentioned here. Let's say, for example, you will have potassium, okay, you have sodium, you have calcium, you have magnesium, and so on. So what happens is that this order basically indicates which is the stronger guy. So let's say potassium is the most strongest, then sodium, then calcium, then magnesium. So if potassium, which is the case here, reacts with a salt which contains magnesium, then it will be able to displace magnesium out of this salt. Whereas if this would have been magnesium sulfate, okay, if instead of potassium you would have had magnesium here and potassium here, potassium actually is referred to with the symbol K, then the same reaction would not have happened. Why? Because magnesium is not as strong as potassium, so it would not be able to displace it out from this sulfuric acid. Okay,